I wanted to share with you the duties and the problems that were caused by the so-called special DOs. Special DOs were started in 1989. But before we start talking about special DOs, it is good to see how the ranks of administration officers at the level of DO were flooded, such that Ezekiel Oyugi created positions that were not relevant to the work of an administration officer. By the very nature of an administration officer, especially around that time, or even right now, they are the coordinators of all government duties within their jurisdiction. So, the easiest person to transfer, an administration officer can easily fit in with almost all ministries, except for professional ministries such as medical. But you'll find that an administration officer is well versed with the functions of various ministries, because he or she is coordinating all government functions at his or her level. But then Oyugi reached a place and created certain positions, which I'll tell you. One was Special DO, and the other one was DO Environment. But before that, let us look at the genesis. The initial district commissioners and provincial commissioners were not graduates, people like Nyachai, Mahiu, Madhenge, you name them. But it reached a place where the government deliberately came up with a degree called Bachelor of Arts, Government Administration, or Bachelor of Arts, Public Administration. For you to be a DO, you had to get that degree and then go to Embakasi for induction as a DO. And after you have been made a DO of various levels, let me not go into that, we used to have the most senior DO was called DO1. This used to be for two positions. DO1 deputized for a DC. And then again we had other DO1s, like the one in Thika. We had a few sub-districts. In that, even though the DO in Thika was answerable to the district commissioner in Kiambu, but you'll find that heads of department in Thika had their own vote. They had owned their funds and whatever. So it was like a half a district, sub-district. So you'd find in a sub-district, there was a DO1 deputized by a normal DO. Roughly estimate, I could say that district commissioners were 40-something, but we had around another 10 stationed at the provincial commissioner's office. These are the ones who are being called deputy provincial commissioner. But later on, it was decided that they should not be called deputy provincial commissioners. They were called personal assistant to the provincial commissioner. So we had around 60 people of the rank of commissioner, the district commissioner. We had approximately twice that number of people who were of the same rank of a DO1, because every district had a DO1. A few sub-districts had DO1, and we had several in the provincial commissioner's office. So it was a ratio of approximately 2-1. If we had people 60 of that rank of the DC, then we had around 120. And then it was said that for one to be made a DO1, one had to pass the exams that was called administration officers exam. So many of them struggled and passed that. That is when you find that in many, now we started having some divisions, because DO1s were only supposed to be in sub-districts and at the district headquarters deputizing the DC. But so many of them passed the exam that you'd find even an ordinary division was headed by a DO1. That is now when we started having a flooding on that level. As if, okay, using my calculation, supposing we had 60 district commissioners level and 120 at the DO1's level, we now reached a place when we had 150 DO1s versus 60 DCs. And for you to be made a DC, the DCs were supposed to retire. But the age difference was there, that the DCs were overstaying, that they were not retiring. To make matters even more worse, leo tutatengeneza matters ziwe worse, ziwe mingi. Some DOs were being promoted to be DCs were using shortcuts. I can give you a few examples. Peter Kibiego Lagat was made a district commissioner. What was his education? His education was a Form 2 Kenya Junior Secondary Examination. He was made a district commissioner by passing the many DO1s who had even passed the exam. The other example is Ole Mosiani. Ole Mosiani was a Form 4 from Olkejuado Secondary School. He was made a district commissioner, and his DO1 was somebody Karoli. I don't know whether it is the Karoli Omondi who is in ODM or another Karoli Omondi, but there was somebody Karoli who was the deputy to him. We had Henry Masambaka Mungasia, who was the DO in Ramu, and he had a Bachelor of Arts, Public Administration, Horns. Now you find that these people, I've given an example, Peter Kibiego Lagat, who was a Form 2, who was made a district commissioner. I have given an example of Ole Mosiani, who was a Form 4, and he was made a district commissioner. We had Timothy Olesirma. Timothy Olesirma, I do not know his academic standard, but something very funny happened to Timothy Olesirma. He was a DO. He sat for the DO1. It was not even called DO1's exam. It used to be called Administration Officers Exam. He sat for the Administration Officers Exam, which upon passing, you are supposed to be promoted to the rank of D1. And on the Kenya Gazette, they had a polite way. Previously, they would say, these are the people who have passed the exams and these ones who have failed. Now, when you failed an exam, they had a polite way of telling you that you have failed. They used to tell you, that you recite the following exams. So Timothy Sirma sat for 5 subjects. They used to be 5 subjects. He sat for the 5 subjects. And in the Kenya Gazette results which came, they said Timothy Ole Sirma was to recite all the 5, meaning that he had failed all the 5 exams. But in the same Kenya Gazette, Timothy Ole Sirma had been gazetted as a district commissioner for Kericho. So being made a DC automatically meant that you are exempted from sitting that exam. So we had a lot of graduates who were on the job group and a substantive rank of D1, but they were lacking a place to go. So the first thing they did, Oyugi created a position which was called DO Environment. You deputized a district commissioner for some time, and then he transferred you from that district to another district where he made you a DO Environment. I visited a few friends who were DO Environments, and most of the time they were idle in the office. But what basic job did they do? They used to plant trees. Meaning that there was a parallel job. They were doing the jobs of these people called district forest officer. District forest officer was of the rank of an OCS. Now, somebody who is of this, DO1 was the same rank with an OCPD. Now, here is somebody who was not even trained in forestry. He has come, his work is to plant trees, so there was such a thing. And then, Oyugi knew he saw a problem. And you see, it is like in business. You find a place where nobody is selling cabbages, you start selling cabbages, you become so you take an opportunity of a vacancy. First of all, he knew that Moi liked songi people. Songi in Kinshasa means maneno. And also he knew, because he was a former DO, he was a former DC, and he was a former PC. And I said that when one is being trained as a DO, instructors from Special Branch Training School used to teach them for a week. Now, training somebody in intelligence for a week who is a graduate on intelligence gathering, as compared to a standard 7 CPE person whom you are training on basic intelligence at CID training school, the DO gets a lot of things quicker. So DO basically was a trained intelligence officer. 2, the DO, being the chairman of sub-district security committee, he was well versed in intelligence things. So what Oyugi did, he took in every district, he took a native of that district and made him a special DO. This was now a parallel intelligence gathering unit. These are people who are basically from that district. They were born there, they'll be buried there, they know the tradition, they know whatever. But when you come to the intelligence people, I am not aware of any district security intelligence officer who was posted to his home district. So here you are working with somebody who is doing your job and is from that. He knows the tradition, he knows the interpretation, and the local leaders have trust in him. They trust him, they tell him everything, so he gets better intelligence than you. The only people who used to work in the intelligence from the area were some of these 2 or 3 NCOs from area who used to assist us in interpretation. Now, for intelligence to come out of the divisions to come to the district headquarters, the handler who was out in the field used to visit, unless there was an emergency, but a handler used to visit once a week. Now something happens, he comes and reports once a week. It is recorded and it reaches the province, let's say in another week. My good guess is such an intelligence report would reach Nyati House in 21 days. Unless it was an emergency and you'd send signals and whatever. But the special DO one, who was a special DO, he would get information, pick a phone when he's alone in the room, talk to Oyugi, tell him, and something that took 21 days to reach Oyugi would take less than 21 hours to reach. Things that would take 21 days to reach Nyati House or reach Brother James Kanyotu, it would take less than 21 hours to reach Oyugi. And Oyugi would take another chance to report to Moi. So that by the time James Kanyotu goes to report to Moi, already Moi knows that. So Moi started losing interest in the intelligence. And you know, intelligence officers were handling, their scope was higher. They used to handle a lot of things. They were not just handling. And you see, special DOs specialized on only 2 things. Political security and fitina. But with the intelligence at every level, the district, the province, there was something that was called need to know basis. For example, so and so wants to be the councillor in this ward. Kanyotu can't go and report to Moi that. But you see, any fitina that was happening in the village, Moi would know through this special deal. And they really gave us a hard time. By the time they were dismantled, I was out of service, so I do not know how they were dismantled. But that was misuse of government, because each one had a vehicle, an unregistered vehicle. We do not know the finances that they used to do, because whatever finance that they used to handle used to come straight from, it used to be handled by Oyugi's office. That, my viewer, is one of the examples of misuse of power which Oyugi misused. And you know, also Oyugi misused power by creating the Nyayo Torture Chamber team led by James Opio. Tumetoka mbali.